Hey everyone, Sari here, and welcome back to another week of late season offense matches. This week had a bit of competition between two units with bonus weeks that I wanted to use, and I ended up using most of the teams I put together for the week. This team gave Zelgius a chance to protect someone other than Guinevere. Fjorm's bonus week stats make her extremely bulky, and with Zelgius handling any melee fights, she gets to take full advantage of her upgraded Ice Mirror. Combining Aegis and Iceberg at a slightly reduced level makes Fjorm very effective at dispatching ranged opponents, especially with her refined Hector protecting her from menace skills and her new mirror stance to stop enemy specials. Shield Pulse is a great way to make sure that Ice Mirror is active for her first fight, and adds some extra mitigation to every activation, while Pulse Smoke helps her shut down pre-charged specials. Heavy Blade is here to help her recharge Ice Mirror with her supercharged counterattack, but using Steady Breath instead would be a lot more reliable. Joint Drive instead of Pulse Smoke would have helped her out more as well. Zelgius, as usual, is an extremely powerful near-save bodyguard. He's gotten a bit of a build update since the last time he was in an offense video, switching Special Fighter for Crafty Fighter, and using Steady Breath instead of Quick Riposte. The new skills give him a much more reliable enemy phase, letting him keep his auto follow-ups and guard until he drops to 20 hit points. It does sacrifice the multi-phase power that Special Fighter offers, but I think this works better for him overall. He's also one of the first units I was able to boost to the new Dragonflower cap. The other teams I used were various flavors of legendary Claude-focused strategies. Claude's a very powerful hit-and-run unit, combining an incredible amount of damage reduction with null follow-up and gravity effects to punch through enemy teams while crippling their ability to chase after his own team. I'm mostly using him with his base kit, just adding Blade Session to help him crack open even the toughest opponents. This first team supports Claude with her Harmonic Catria. Giving Claude access to Triangle Attack turns him into one of the strongest tank breakers in the game, and the additional mobility from her Orders buff gives the team a lot of flexibility in handling an engagement. The next version of the team swaps Catria out for a second Dancer. Duo is an excellent support for Claude, giving him access to multiple extra actions while also providing him up to 13 extra combat attack. The extra dance can really help pick apart teams with multiple priority targets. The last team actually ended up seeing more use than either of the other two. This one was pretty experimental and is aimed at handling teams without many melee threats. Claude typically doesn't have problems picking off a key target or two, and Felix can intercept any ranged opponents. One of the really useful perks of this is Claude's ability to deliberately keep a melee opponent alive, and tank them with Fallen Star, giving the team a very easy time picking up healer pots afterwards. Felix probably would have been better off using Iceberg than Glaciers here without Hilda to enable a full breath effect, but he made it work, and big numbers are fun. Like Zelgius, Felix was another one of the first units I was able to boost to the new Dragonflower cap, and the extra stats help push some of the tricky matchups into his favor. Now that we've gone over the teams, let's get to the first match. This match is going to be an interesting way to start the week. They've got a pretty solid team set up here with a Duo Lif and young Lara Shaw really helping to threaten almost the entire map. This tile with the fence is still threatened too, thanks to Nott's extra Pathfinder range. And Lara Shaw is always really good at trying to shut down a carry before the fight begins, thanks to her staff. They also gave her Dazzling Staff on top, just in case something manages to dodge her weapon. And they're backing that up with two Dancers, a bonus week Triandra and a Peony. It's an interesting Peony build. I don't think I've actually seen one with Panic Play before, and it's a bit odd that they don't have Joint Drive attack for her. They've got a Bramimond and a Dimitri. This Ignis is actually a really cool idea for him. He can do a lot of damage with it. I don't think I'm going to have too many problems with this, but we are going to need to take a turn just to get set up and in position before we start things and close it out. Partly just because this odd recovery is not something I want to have to deal with on the enemy phase.
What's this? I bestow my blessing. Caress.
So we'll just wait for it to fire and go in on the second turn instead. From here, we should be able to let Dogger break this. And Pathfinder lets Claude run all the way up here to take down Nott. We'll have Milla move up this way.
Yes.
And then Air will flip Felix over to the side, which is really important because we need to give him an orders buff to catch up to Claude after Claude takes our shawl off the board. And once we've done that, Felix can move in and protect Claude from all the ranged units on the field. Dimitri gets to attack Claude, but that's not too big a deal, since Triandra can't dance him. And while Bramimond does get to do a chunk of damage here, the Glacies from Felix is going to be enough to finish him off.
Do I look merry?
Triandra can do some damage too. The bonus weak stats and a plus 10 attack from the Duo Peony give her a chunk of extra damage, but it's still not enough to punch through Felix. And neither is Leaf. Especially not when he tanks a Glacies on the first counterattack. Peony, meanwhile, well, can't get anything done. And Felix finishes her off easily.
Really?
From here it should be very easy to close things out. We're just going to have Felix pick up both of these Aether pots.
If I have to. What's this?
Then Claude can close out the match.
Leave. Now.
Down he goes. That was a fun way to start off the week. Let's see what we get next. This match is going to be a bit of a step down from the last one. It's a little odd. They're mostly just using legendary in-season units with a couple of mythics here. And they've locked them all behind a wall of structures. But the reason I say it's odd is because of this +6 Triandra. Most of the time, someone with that many merges on a mythic has probably put together a better defense than this. So this might just be a fishing map to try and get some rematches for later in the week. I'm not expecting to have too many problems with it. And it should be pretty easy for Claude to pick things off one at a time until we close out the match. I'm going to take this first turn to start testing these traps and open things up for Claude to start knocking things out.
If you say so. Yes.
Oh, we found both traps already, that's good.
It will be done.
And then we can just wait and start knocking out some of their team next turn. From here, we can just open up a little bit more room to work with.
Sure thing.
And quad down Fjorm. And we condense Claude and move him up here, since we already found the real bolt trap.
I won't back down.
Which makes it safe for Katria to flip him back down, and out of range of their team.
Like this. Right, boss.
From here, we should just be able to smite Claude up,
Yes.
open up this corner so we
Let's
can
go.
reach the units on the inside. Start by taking down all of them. And we actually need to be a little bit careful here, since if we just decide to dance Claude here, Peony is actually potentially going to get sniped by Triandra. So what we're going to do is just dance him and retreat.
Sure thing.
To be by his side.
Since we have Triandra isolated, none of their team can actually catch us here.
I bestow my blessing.
So we can just wait for one more turn. From here, we do still need to pick this Aether pot up. And unfortunately, if I'm having Claude ace the match, I can't quite finish all three of these off this turn.
Death's caress.
So what we're going to do instead is just
Sure
pick
thing.
off their Claude.
Hold a grudge if you must.
Ready.
And dance him,
Let's go.
and pick off Triandra. And we'll let Claude just tank his way through Tiki with Fallen Star in the enemy phase.
It will be done.
We can pick up the pot,
Got him.
and wait to finish the match. He actually doesn't need Fallen Star at all. Wow. Oh, makes it a little easier.
What's this?
Yep, and down she goes.
Hold a grudge if you must.
I kind of expect to get visited by this one later in the week, but we'll see. On to the next one. This match is going to be a fun debut for Fjorm in her bonus week. It's actually been a while since I ran into a legendary Sigurd, and I'm kind of surprised I didn't see any last week when he was in season. They've got a pretty effective threat overlap here, with Niffle on the front side in her own bonus week, and backing them up with a Nott and Dogger, along with a Duo Peony and a Triandra in her bonus week. We also have an Edelgard in the corner, who is mostly irrelevant to this fight until after you deal with the rest of the team. I honestly think she'd be better off right here, where the healing tower is next to Niffle, since she'd still get to transform, and at least that way you don't get to ignore her until you've handled everything else. I'm going to need to take a turn just to set this up and get our wave skills online from Docker, and also to break a couple of structures to help mitigate Niffle's ARD skill.
Got him.
The fun part about this is that even though they do cover a pretty significant amount of the map with this threat range, the threat range doesn't actually extend at all on this first turn, and it's just as presented. Since even when Sigurd gives himself a movement bonus, he only gets to threaten the same tiles that Niffle does.
Death's caress.
Which means that we can break this Dark Shrine
Ready.
Yes.
and the Tactic Ring safely.
Orders, please.
And then we'll move
It will
Fjorm
be
down
done.
here and get
I'll keep
Zelgius
you
over
alive.
here to get his spectrum of buffs. This also lets us isolate Peony specifically, which is important since we wouldn't be able to bait her with Fjorm, where I think we should be able to bait Triandra.
If you say so.
So from here, we're going to smite Zelgius over this way.
As you say.
We'll move Fjorm up here, which lets us
Maybe
give her
this
some
way.
buffs from Dancing Dagger.
Like this.
Mill is going to move back here.
Right, boss.
And then we'll move Zelgius back over here and let him cover everybody with saves, just in case I'm wrong about how this will play out and Sigurd actually ends up getting danced. Niffle should move in first, yeah. And while she can take a bite out of Zelgius, she can't actually survive him.
No draw, no escape.
This does mean that we can't take out Sigurd when he moves into attack, but Sigurd shouldn't get a whole lot of damage done to Zelgius anyway. From here, the movement buff means that Triandra moves in and attacks Fjorm, and doesn't really get to accomplish much. While Fjorm can counterattack her and one-shot her with Ice Mirror. Sadly, we didn't meet the Heavy Blade check here, so we don't get to one-shot Peony as well. But that's okay. She couldn't dance, and, well, note attacking into Zelgius isn't that big of a problem. So it was a bit unfortunate we didn't actually secure the knockout on Peony here. I actually forgot to include the extra attack she gave to Triandra for attacking right here, and that meant we didn't get a Heavy Blade off. It's a little unfortunate, but it's nothing we can't handle.
Death's
We're going
caress.
to
If you say
have
so.
Zelgius
I'll keep you alive.
finish this note off.
Let's see how you handle this.
Good
And then
morning.
Peony can jump over here to dance him.
Yes.
Fjorm can take out Sigurd. And then we'll have Zelgius swap Peony out of the way of Peony. And say go. Nope. I thought she might go after Zelgius, but that's fine. She can't do anything to him anyway.
Say your prayers.
And then Dagger, I'm sorry. I'm not used to seeing her on a defense.
No draw.
Really
no
can't
escape.
get too much done either. From here, it's pretty straightforward. Zelgius should be able to handle Edelgard without any problems. We just need to make sure that we pick up these Aether bots and close out the match.
The glimmer of
I'm going
light.
to start by having Air move up here,
Ready.
Right, boss.
and she should be able to
Yes.
start testing some of these traps for us. Awesome, that's the real bolt trap.
Orders, please.
And that's the real heavy trap.
I bestow
Perfect.
my blessing.
What's your plan?
Death's caress.
And from here it should be pretty easy to open this up,
As you say.
pick up both pots,
What's your plan?
Maybe this way.
I'll keep you alive.
Got him.
and let Zelgius close out the
It will
match.
be done.
Yep. She attacks in, but she doesn't mitigate
One will live, one will die.
the Black Luna. There we go. That was pretty clean overall. Let's see what we get next. This match is going to be a very interesting one. Mostly just because whoever this is absolutely loves Nino. They have 4 different Ninos, almost all of them maxed out, and this is the only one who's missing any dragon flowers. And while this does at first seem a little bit like a meme team, it's actually extremely hard to handle if you're not very careful about it. Since they've got air orders on Triandra enabling both of these Ninos, ground orders on this Nino enabling both of these Ninos, and the 2 grounded Ninos are getting a full spectrum of tactics from their +10 Hell and the Note. The harsh command on Hell is also pretty important, since if you're not careful it can actually clear out gravity debuffs or reverse any penalties that they might have. Not that these 3 Ninos need to worry too much about penalties when they've all got unities. 2 attack speed unities already, too. It's a very impressive team. I like it a lot, and kind of expect a rematch coming in later this week. I actually need to plan this out very carefully, since Claude could actually miss the knockout on this Nino if I don't set it up properly. So, the bright side of all of this is that their threat range is limited to what this currently displays. Even when Nino here can jump up to here, the threat range doesn't go past what Hell can attack. And the same goes for this Nino. Our first order of business is just clearing out the structures in the front here, and opening up a path for next turn.
Yes. Maybe this way.
And if I'm careful about this, I think we should be able to clean this up by the end of the 3rd turn. Oops, no, you're not moving up here. There we go. And Claude will flip this peony forward, and Mill is just going to stay put and not break anything this turn. So unfortunately I actually miscalculated a little bit and somehow forgot that Claude was going to be soaking the Sprite Shrine.
If you say
So we're actually
so.
going to need to take another couple of turns to set this up. Since, as is, Claude isn't going to be able to kill this Nino. So we're just going to break the Sprite Shrine,
My warmest greetings.
dance Claude back, and take another couple of turns to set up.
Ready.
We can have Peony here pick up a pot though, just to help clean things up before we get going.
Sure thing.
From here we need to take one more turn
A new dawn.
What's this?
to reposition a little bit. We can break this tactic room
Good
too,
morning.
just to make things easy for ourselves.
Yes.
And now we just wait for the wave skills to come back online. And now that we're not dealing with this Bright Shrine,
Got 'em.
we should be able to smite Claude forward,
It will be done.
have Milla break this statue,
Let's go.
and Claude should have enough damage to finish off this Nino. It's a close call even with all of that. From there, we can start picking apart the rest of their team. Nudio's hindrance means that Claude actually gets quite a bit
Sure thing.
of extra utility from the Duo Peony. We can pick off Hell. Use our second dance.
What's this?
Pick off Note.
Hold a grudge if you must.
Ready.
Dance him one more time.
The glimmer of life.
Flip this peony down and flip this peony down. And we should be out of range for their next turn. Yep, The Ninos move up, and nothing else happens.
Let's go.
From here, the rest of this should be pretty straightforward. These Ninos, while very fast, are weak to archers, which makes them pretty easy to take out, for Claude to take out.
My warmest greetings.
What's this?
And we can take out the other one. Before Peony dances again,
Sure thing.
and lets him take out the last Nino.
Hold a grudge if you must.
And that just leaves Triandra for him to handle in the enemy phase. And Fallen Star makes that pretty easy to do. That was a fun match, though. Kind of impressive to see all of those Ninos. It's really great to see someone spoil their favorites like that. Let's see what we get next. This match was a pretty embarrassing faceplant moment against a pretty highly invested Cav line. It was really neat to see this, and I was looking forward to picking it apart with a nicely timed Claude Snipe and Felix Bodyguard strategy. And I was planning to take advantage of the first turn that the safety fence offers us to set up and get things ready. Unfortunately, even though I planned out a strategy that would work out pretty well, I managed to forget that the safety fence doesn't actually apply to your entire first row if you leave it in the corner like this. Which, of course, means that Reinhardt got to move in and snipe Milla on turn 1. This match is going to be an interesting take on a Catria ball. It's mostly just a Catria with several in-season legendaries backing her up. But that doesn't actually make it any less spooky to approach safely. Especially with a bonus week Claude in the picture. And of course Nott. And so this, to round things out. While it's not too hard to isolate this trap, there is a very deceptive little trap with this Byleth and Azura. Since Byleth is a 7th unit, and Azura dancing him actually extends the threat range down to where Milla is standing right now. It can probably catch people off guard if they're not thinking about it, since Nott's Pathfinder does give him a chunk of extra range. I do think, though, that we should be able to handle this without too many problems. But we will need to take a couple of turns to make sure we pick up this pot before the fight begins, since I think after we start, it's going to be very difficult to actually reach it safely.
Got him.
So we're going to have Dogger break this,
Orders, please.
Fjorm break this. And the reason I'm not concerned about this threat range on the first turn is because we're not going to be in range of any of them. So the safety fence will keep them from actually activating this trap immediately.
Ready.
Which gives us time to move Milla into position to isolate Azura and keep the trap offline permanently.
The glimmer of life.
Your orders.
Yep, there we go.
Yes.
We'll need to spend one more turn clearing a path.
Morning.
Orders, please.
If you say so.
And Dogger can break that for us, Zelgius can move over, and everyone else can stay put. I'm not going to open this wall up just yet, since I want to make sure that their team funnels away from this second Aether pot. From here, we're actually going to let Peony pick up this Aether pot,
If you say
and
so.
we'll smite Fjorm forward,
As you
and have her pull Peony back to safety. None of their melee should actually be able to reach us this turn, so I'm not worried about getting Zelgius all the way over here to protect Fjorm.
Like this.
Instead, we're just going to move Nil out of the way. Zelgius can move here, and we'll wait and let, ideally, Crom and Azura attack into Fjorm here. Crom should move first. He can do a little bit of damage, thanks to the triangle attack. But it's okay. Fjorm can handle that and take him down. And then Azura moves in, and well, she really can't do much. The rest of their team should move here, but none of them can actually reach us since Byleth never got to use his action. And here, they did manage to stay in a really nice formation for the second round of triangle attacks, but I don't think it's going to be too big of a deal for us to handle. We're going to start by swapping Nott upwards,
As you say.
which lets us flip Dogger over to the left and get the link online for Fjorm as well,
Ready.
and then dance Fjorm to give her a little bit more attack and speed.
Got him.
Dogger can run over and hide behind Milla,
Death's caress.
while Air opens this up so we can pick up the pot next turn. Claude should jump forward first here, I think. Yep. Even though he doesn't actually get to survive this, since Fjorm's actually fast enough to double him. Oh no, he did survive. Right, because Ice Mirror is pretty good. Or, not Ice Mirror, Fallen Star. On the other hand, Nott won't survive, and Katri is going to jump forward and get herself knocked out as well.
Say your prayers.
And with no more triangle attacks to use, the rest of this should be pretty straightforward. So, this is actually a little bit awkward. I actually expected Fjorm to knock Claude out with double, but that blunting of the Ice Mirror did a lot of work for him and let him survive here. And he's also going to get healed back into his weapon's range by this healing tower. But this is actually a good thing for us, since we do still want to pick this pot up,
Orders,
and
please.
that means that we can take advantage of the fact that Claude will survive a combat with Zelgius,
I'll keep you alive.
I bestow my blessing.
while Fjorm should be able to handle Byleth
Yes.
and Sothis.
Right, boss.
And that should let us pick everything up safely on the next turn. Yep, there he goes.
No draw, no escape.
Yep, and he survives that. Zelgius doesn't have any issues with Sothis, and that'll let Fjorm close the turn out with Byleth.
Say your prayers.
He does get a Sublime Heaven, but this actually does get reduced by Ice Mirror, since it's a special that reduces damage. And that means Byleth really doesn't get much done to Fjorm.
Death's caress.
From here, all we have to do is pick up the pot,
I'll keep you alive.
and then we'll let Fjorm close things out after we cancel Claude's Fallen Star.
Orders, please.
And down he goes. That was a fun match. Let's see what we get next. This match is going to be a kind of interesting one. It's mostly a seasonal team with 3 mythics to boost the legendary stats. But it does still need some attention being paid to it. Bramimond and Leaf, and the in-season bonus week Claude can all be pretty significant threats if you don't handle them carefully. Especially if they have Azura to dance them and give, well, Claude and Bramimond and Sothis, and Note 2, some extra range, and along with that, having an Eldigan to try and dodge Milla's isolation. I don't think I'm going to have too many problems handling this, but it'll be fun to see anyway. The Iotes on Claude was a fun little nod to, well, people could use Claude against Claude. We're going to take a turn just to set up for this.
Sure thing.
And clear up some of this side of the map.
Really?
Ready.
And use the safety fence to let us take this first turn without having to worry about any dances on the 7th unit Bramimond.
Like this. Yes.
From here, we're actually just going to use Dogger to move up here,
Let's go.
which lets Claude run up and take down Note.
Good morning.
Before we dance him,
What's this?
and let him take down his alter ego. Iotes or not,
Leave.
it's not going to help him once he's getting doubled.
Death's caress.
And then we'll just get Felix up here
If I have to.
to screen our team from their ranged units. I'll leave Milla down here just to make sure she stays safe this turn. I don't think there's really too much that's going to happen here other than Leaf dancing forward. Bramimond gets to attack, but when Felix has a defense tile to work with, there's not a lot Bram can do.
This is your name on it.
And then Eldigan should dance, yep. Zura actually attacks next. She has less health to lose. And then Leaf can only attack Felix, so he gets handled as well.
You've shown your weakness.
At this point, we really just need to navigate around these two without finishing them off, so we can pick up these pots and move on.
Sure
It
thing.
shouldn't be too hard. Claude can pick Sothis off without any problems. Which leaves Eldigan stranded, and unable to really threaten very much of the map.
The glimmer of life.
We can get near here. Okay, so that's the real trap.
Ready.
We'll dance her.
Yes.
She can move over here, and get in position to pick this up next turn,
I'll deliver.
while Felix takes that bolt tower offline.
Right, boss. I bestow my blessing.
And we'll get ready for closing out the match.
Death's caress.
And here we can just have Air pick off this pot,
Got him.
Dogger take this one,
Let's go.
and Claude can close things out. It's nice to beat them with Claude. They actually used him to clear my defense, but it's a nice counter visit. Let's see what we get next. This one is going to be a very fun rematch near the end of the week. They actually ended up abusing Zelgius a bit with this Eirika on offense, so I was kind of expecting to see her show up on their defense team. They're backing her up with a legendary Sigurd out of season, along with this nearly maxed out Duo Lif, and screening their team with a far safe Hector, and rounding out the entire setup with this Impact Lensbreaker Triandra. and a Bramimond, and a Nott. This setup's actually very difficult to approach with a tanking strategy, since the drive attack over here from Nott can actually add quite a bit of damage if you're not careful. And, you know, on top of having Sigurd and Lif and Eirika to deal with in the front, it makes things a little tricky. On the other hand, I think I've figured out a way to actually let Zelgius get a bit of revenge. So we'll see if I did my math correctly. I'm going to have to start this on the first turn. Without doing that, we can't actually isolate Triandra, which could let her dance, and that isn't something I'd like to let happen. So we're going to start by moving Noah down here. Fjorm's going to move over here first, which lets Peony dance her and buff both Fjorm and Zelgius for the coming combats. Next, Pathfinder lets her move up here, which is going to be the best spot to tank from, since it lets us get away from the range of Nott's drive attack, while also tanking from outside of Triandra's weapon area. Zelgius is going to swap Dagger, which gives him a full set of speed and defense buffs to work with, and then we'll just have Nott move over here and break that. The first thing that should happen is that Eirika moves in and attacks, since she does the most damage. And we were very careful to make sure Zelgius was going to tank the Bright Shrine, which gives him just enough damage to take care of Eirika. Bramimond actually ends up moving first here, which is a little funny, but he can't do a whole lot to Fjorm. Sigurd moves in next, and that's fine. He actually won't get anything done here, since his weapon's offline when he's attacking a lower health target. Triandra moves next, mostly because she survives, but it's not going to be enough to really put Fjorm in any danger. Especially since Lif can't really do damage either. And the second hit will be enough to let Fjorm finish him off. Hector's going to pivot forward here, I think. And that leaves us in a great spot to handle things next turn. So from here, as good as a situation as this is, we do still need to try and angle for these Aether pots without ending the match. Ideally, we're going to get to kite Hector around. He's the least mobile of the remaining units. But to do that easily, we need to make sure we get Triandra dealt with this turn. As much as I'd like to let Fjorm handle that, it's actually better to let Zelgius do it.
Good morning.
He's back into his crafty fighter range now, so he shouldn't have too much of a problem handling Triandra, who won't be able to threaten these two after her movement buff falls off this turn.
Death's caress.
We're also going to move Air up here, which should let her secure this pot next turn. And Triandra moves forward since Nott can't rally her. And Zelgius doesn't have any problems taking that down.
No draw, no escape.
Nope, and the other two just move up. Now that we've gotten rid of Triandra, we really just need to make sure we take care of Nott, and then we can pick up these pots at our leisure. Thankfully, I think Zelgius has enough defense to actually handle around with Nott, as long as we give him a link buff from Dagger. So we're going to start by swapping him down,
Maybe this
dancing
way.
him.
I bestow my
Going to
blessing.
open this up.
If you say
We can
so.
smite Air forward, and then use the orders buff to have Zelgius swap Dagger and get his full set of buffs.
Yes.
Air can just pick this pot up, and we'll have Fjorm wait in place. Here comes Nott. She should do, yep, 13 times 2. But the guard effect means she doesn't get her special, even though she does end up surviving
Say your prayer.
the first hit.
Got him.
From here, it's actually pretty straightforward to clean this up.
Like this.
I'm just going to have Mila open this up, which
The glimmer of light.
gives Air a way out of the gravity trap that she was stuck in.
As you say.
And then
Good
Fjorm
morning.
and Peony can evacuate.
Yes.
What's your plan?
I bestow
From
my
here, it should be
blessings.
pretty straightforward to pick up this pot and close out the match. We can smite Air forward and pick this up. And then we can just have Zelgius swap Dagger
Ready.
and dance him for a few extra points of attack, and then let him handle Hector in the enemy phase. Nice.
Let's see how you handle this.
And clean. Poor Zelgius took a beating this round, though. He still pulled out on top, which was really fun to see. This match is going to be another interesting one. They've got a pretty solid setup for just denying areas of the map, thanks to Lara Shaw with her staff, and the extra movement she gets from Nott. This actually usually doesn't end up working as well as people might like, since you can actually end up baiting Lara Shaw from outside of her staff's effect range. They're also screening their team with a far-safe Henriette to try and deter any hit-and-run approaches. And Nifl's C-skill really helps Henriette to survive a lot of hit-and-run approaches as well, thanks to the damage reduction. They've even got Summer Freya able to transform, thanks to Nifl giving her a dragon next to her. And two dancers really helps the team avoid isolation being a problem. It's an 18, and I think I've figured out how to approach this properly. But it'll take a few turns to set up. I need to test these two traps before we get things going, and that shouldn't be too hard to do, thanks to Air's disarm trap.
Maybe this way.
Sure thing.
We'll use Claude to flip her down, and that lets Air jump over here.
Right, boss.
Dagger can move one space, Mila can move one space,
I'll deliver.
and Felix can pick up one of these pots. Safety fence ends their turn immediately. From here, getting Air into this position was pretty important, since it lets us flip her here and smite her forward to test the other trap, which didn't end up being real. That's okay.
Good morning.
We'll dance Claude, who can flip her out of the danger zone. Felix can swap Mila
Like this.
and get himself a little closer to the fighting area.
Sure thing.
From here we need to take one more turn just to set things up correctly. Dancing Dagger here is actually pretty important, since we're not buffing Claude with it, and that means that Dagger will soak the chill attack from Dorothea.
If I have
We're also going to swap Felix, which lines Peony up to boost Claude for the next turn,
It will be done.
and then we'll wait. Yep.
Got him.
From here we can start things off.
let's go.
We're going to have Claude move in and take down Henriette. Without a guard effect, it's actually pretty easy for him to finish her off with the second hit. And then Luna.
I won't back down.
Then we're going to have Felix swap Dagger, which puts him into safe range of Claude for next turn.
Good morning.
We're going to dance Claude,
Sure thing.
and have him take down Niffle. This is important since Niffle attacking Claude would stop Felix from being able to counterattack on the next turn as well, and that would be the only thing that really messes with us here, since Claude's actually going to soak La Rochelle's staff and let Felix counterattack all three of their ranged this turn.
Death's caress.
We're going to move Air over this way, Milla here, and say go. Yep, Triandra moves in, but she's not going to punch through Felix. And neither is Dorothea.
Do I look merry?
Oof. La Rochelle moves in last and doesn't fare any better. And I think from here, Freya should move one space thanks to gravity before being flipped by Nott.
Right, boss.
From here, it should be pretty easy to clean things up.
Yes.
Air can pick up this pod,
Let's go.
and we're actually going to have Claude pick off Freya first, just to avoid getting her solo skills active.
Hold a grudge if you must.
And then we can dance him one more time,
What's this?
and have him close out the match. Nice and clean. This was a really fun week of offenses overall. It's great to see Claude getting to shine in his second bonus week, and I even got to give Fjorm some time in the spotlight as well. That one especially was really fun. She's not been able to get many in-season bonus weeks for a while, so it was good to give her some time with her new refine. I do have a Discord, if there's a link in the description if you'd like to hang out and chat, and I've also got a Patreon page there if you'd like to help support the channel. As always, I hope you've enjoyed the video, good luck with your own matches, and I'll see you next time.